keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the game preview show. We're going to be talking 49ers versus Chicago Bears, and it's a big game, and the 49ers are holding on to a very slim possibility that they could make the playoffs, and the big reason why no one has pulled away in the NFC West. Now, Seattle is trying to do that. They're 2 games over 500 after a 3-game losing streak, but inconsistency has definitely been the word to describe Seattle this season. Losing streaks, now winning streaks. So nothing is set in stone. 49ers still have to win football games to even be considered. And realistically, they're a game away from there being no mathematical chance that they could make the playoffs. So we're going to see how they respond. Kyle Shanahan kind of saying the same thing in his presser today. He's looking forward to seeing how this team responds to a losing streak, how resilient they can be. And we're going to find out. It's not going to be an easy football game against the Chicago Bears. It is a winnable football game, but not easy by any stretch of the imagination. The Chicago Bears have a very talented roster, a pretty good core group of players, and a team that's winning in the right areas. We're going to talk about that in this episode. The Chicago Bears have found ways to stay competitive, and there for a while they were pushing to make something happen in the NFC. Now, they have a very tough division, and the war of attrition has caught up to them with dealing with the Packers and the Lions and the Vikings. So they're not going to be a playoff contender this season, but they're still looking to push for the future. And with so much unrest surrounding their coaching staff, they have to figure out exactly who they are over the next 5 weeks. A guy like Caleb Williams still wants to get better and build upon what he can do coming out of his rookie season. They still have a lot of guys with a lot to prove, and they're going to be out there trying to defeat the 49ers on Sunday. So the 49ers are not getting a free pass at all. They're going to have to go out there and earn it, and this is a defense that flies around. They're very athletic. And so the 49ers, they can't just sit back and think they're going to win this one because they're coming in with a better record. The Chicago Bears are not a 4-8 football team. They proved it just last week when they pushed the Detroit Lions all the way to the brink of a loss. And of course, Matt Eberflus made a huge mistake at the end of that game, and it not just cost the Bears the game, but it cost Eberflus the job. So he's gone, and there's some adjustments. So we're going to talk about the coaching staff and how exactly these two teams match up, because there's a lot of changes for the 49ers with some of the injuries that are going on. We'll also take a look over at the Chicago Bears. They have key players out as well. So it's going to be an interesting one. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the game as it happens. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college basketball to NHL to UFC. Head to Bet Online today and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. And I want to talk about this coaching staff for the Chicago Bears, because we talked about the unrest with what's happening with a new head coach. You're going to have an interim head coach, you have an interim offensive coordinator, and there's a lot of changes there. But with it comes some familiarity for the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff, and I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So Thomas Brown is taking over as the interim head coach. He was the offensive coordinator and offensive pass game coordinator to start the season. So he's taking over as the head coach. And he's had 4 years of coaching experience and 9 in college. So he was with the Carolina Panthers in 2023, and he's also been with the Los Angeles Rams in various roles, including the 2021 Super Bowl football team that was coaching there with Sean McVay. So he comes with a McVay-centric style of offense, which means familiarity with what happens within that offense. And a guy, like Brandon Staley, who understands this guy pretty significantly. But you're going to have a offensive mindset of let's get Caleb Williams established, and at least the 49ers have some familiarity with it. Now, Brown will be going into his first job, our first time as interim head coach, and getting the job in an interim basis after the firing. So what can you expect from the Chicago Bears? Sometimes you can expect a lot of energy and a burst of ability coming off a guy being fired. You can look back at a guy, just last year, Antonio Pierce takes over, and then all of a sudden the Raiders start winning some football games. Now, how long will that burst last? You never know, but it could also go the other way, where it doesn't work out, nothing changes, and you continue to lose, but there is that possibility that could happen. Chris Beatty will take over as the interim offensive coordinator, so he's handling all the responsibilities when it comes to offensive coordinator, and he was a wide receivers coach in his time in the NFL. He has 15 seasons of experience in college as well, 3 in the NFL. He spent 3 seasons as wide receiver coach for the Los Angeles Chargers. So guess who he was a wide receiver coach for? Brandon Staley. So we're talking about familiarity with 49ers coaches. He's going to understand, Brandon Staley is going to understand who Chris Beatty is, and also, what they're doing with Thomas Brown. So he's going to understand this offense pretty well. Now, you can't, just rest on that and think, oh, well, I have an idea, so I'm going to be able to figure it out. But you can figure out thought processes and lead those to what they normally do on down and distance, what they do with personnel groupings, and how they handle key situations. It could give the 49ers a little bit of an advantage when Staley has some knowledge of these guys. Now, 49ers need all the help they can get. They have been inconsistent on defense, especially lately, where they have been absolutely handled on third down conversions. Offenses are converting at a very high level right now and really bad in the red zone. 49ers are the 31st best team in the red zone when it comes to defense. We'll be talking about that a little bit more. Those types of things have to change if you're going to become a winning football team over the remaining 5 weeks, which they have to do. Now, the defensive coordinator is Eric Washington. He's going to be manning Chicago's defense. There's no change there. He's been the man since the season started, and he was with the Buffalo Bills from 2020 to 2023. So he's a guy that's been around, and people understand who he is. This is a guy that's done a very good job, especially with defensive lines, especially in his time in Buffalo. They did a really good job, generating sacks when he was there. So defensive coordinator, no change, but offensive side of the ball, lots of changes. And of course, a lot of that directly impacted by the firing of the head coach. And of course, Caleb Williams, who you see as your future quarterback, for a long time. So those are going to be huge. And just a small glimpse of special teams when it comes to coach familiarity for Kyle Shanahan is Richard Hightower is the special teams coordinator for the Chicago Bears. So we know that the 49ers understand what Hightower likes to do. And so familiarity pretty much all the way around for 49ers coaches with the coaches of the Chicago Bears, which in turn means they have familiarity with the 49ers coaches as well and should be able to have some insight there as well. Now let's talk about the injuries a little bit and set the tone for what we're going to get out of this game. These are the official, official rulings. This is official injury report. And Dre Greenlaw is not going to play this week. And Kyle Shanahan kind of let the cat out of the bag that they're hoping it's going to be next week. So it made sense. You have a Sunday game this week and then Thursday next week against the Rams. And having him go back-to-back coming off an injury doesn't seem smart. So if you bypass this game and he plays Thursday, then he's going to have a long recovery time before he plays again against the Miami Dolphins in Miami, which could be a very good thing to help him get his legs back under him. So play Thursday against the Rams. How many snaps? We won't know. Then play against the Dolphins, and then you're hoping he's back to full strength because after the Dolphins, you're playing Detroit, and then you're playing Arizona. So not a lot of games this year for Dre Greenlaw, but that's kind of how they're playing it. Now, Jordan Mason listed as out for this football game with the ankle injury. From what I've seen, even though he's still on the injury list right now and hasn't been put on the IR, there still is an expectation that Jordan Mason will be put on the IR before the game, and the 49ers will make another roster move. So we're waiting to see what that roster move is. But the 49ers will make a roster move, and Jordan Mason will likely go to injured reserve. Now, George Odom popped up on the injury report yesterday, and he is officially out with a knee injury. So the 49ers are going to have, somebody needed to step up at safety. Talanoa Hufanga did practice this week, so Hufanga could be a possibility. They could, go ahead and make Hufanga active for this football game, and maybe that is going to be the corresponding move. We don't know yet. We'll find out. But Talanoa Hufanga is listed as questionable with the wrist. He did return to practice. He said he stayed in pretty good shape, and he's eager to get back on the field. He is going to be playing with a cast. So Odom out, and then Trent Williams is officially out this week, still dealing with the ankle injury. And so no pressure on Trent to come back. He's dealing with a lot of things besides just the injury, but the 49ers are hopeful that he'll get better and better. Now, doubtful for the game is Nick Bosa, which means he's likely to be out for this football game. I think they didn't put him as out because they're hoping it's going to get a little bit better over the next couple of days, and he had showed improvement over the last couple of days. So Kyle Shanahan, was at least giving a glimmer of hope, and they'll test it out before the game. But I think it's likely that Nick Bosa is going to be out for this football game as well. Now, other questionable players, Aaron Banks is still moving through concussion protocol. So he got hurt not last week, but the week before, and he's still having to work through concussion protocol. So the reason he's questionable is there's a chance he could still be ready to go for the game. And a lot of times that means that he can get cleared on Saturday and then potentially be able to play. So Aaron Banks is not out of the question to play in this game, but if it's not him, it will be Ben Bartch, who did a really good job in replace of him last week against the Buffalo Bills. So Banks is potentially in. We'll see what happens with his concussion protocol, but it can't be rushed, completely monitored. And Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles is questionable with a knee injury. I think it's likely that Flannigan-Fowles plays in this football game. So that's good news for the 49ers, where depth at linebacker was a little bit of a problem last week, but also Flannigan-Fowles, a good special teams player, somebody they need to be playing for the game. Now let's talk about Chicago Bears. Their starting center right now, Ryan Bates, he's going to be out with a concussion. So officially ruled out, no Ryan Bates this week, which is going to be interesting. I'm going to talk about the interior part of the offensive line for the Bears in a little bit, but that could be a huge, significant advantage for the 49ers when you're talking about interior pass rush. Safety Elijah Hicks, ankle, he's going to be out of this football game. Running back Rashawn Johnson, he's dealing with a concussion. He's out. Now, the big news for the Chicago Bears, though, is DJ Moore was listed as questionable with a quadricep injury, but he had not been practicing. So this is actually good news for Chicago, where DJ Moore might be out there. Same thing with DeAndre Swift. He's dealing with a quad as well. So both of those guys are questionable. I think it's likely that both of them play. So they're going to have their full complement of weapons on the outside, and that's good news for them. Now, Deommodore Lenoir, not even listed on the injury report. He is for sure going to play. Charvarius Ward did miss practice on Friday, but it's not injury-related, and he's not on the injury report, so it's expected that Charvarius Ward will be ready to go and play against the Chicago Bears. So let's get into the key matchups and keys for the 49ers to win this football game, and it has to start with the 49ers run game versus Chicago Bears defense. And I know this is kind of a similar conversation we have every single week, but you look at the Bears, and their defense has a lot of talent. They're very fast, very athletic, a speed rusher like Montez Sweat. They have Edmonds and Edwards, the linebackers, quick guys. They got a good cover guy, and Jalen Johnson on the outside. Tyreek Stevenson, another quick guy. They've got a lot of speed on defense, but one thing they don't do very well is stop the run. Even though the 49ers rush defense hasn't been great this season, and over the last couple weeks it's been pretty darn bad, the Chicago Bears have still been worse. Chicago Bears give up 135 yards per game on the ground. 49ers got to find a way to take advantage of that and establish a run game. And it's going to get a little bit more interesting because you don't have Christian McCaffrey. You don't have Jordan Mason. So it's going to be Isaac Rendo. It's going to be Patrick Taylor Jr. It's going to be Israel Abanikanda, the new guy. Those are going to be the guys expected to step up and make some plays for this football team. So we know Guerrero is going to be thrust into the role, and he's got the speed, and he's been practicing within this offense for a while. So where has Bobby Turner got him? Over the last few weeks, he hasn't had as many carries or opportunities until the injuries. And then he got out there and he got a touchdown against the Buffalo Bills in the passing game. So the 49ers are going to have to find a way to get Isaac Guerrero going. I think it's very important for the 49ers offense over the next 5 weeks to establish Isaac Guerrero in the running game and then be able to get a play action passing game off that. This offense needs to go back to looking a lot more like 2019 with Jimmy Garoppolo under center with his back to the defense and Brock Purdy running the boot game, getting the outside zone going, using the speed of Isaac Guerrero to get to the outside. Now, this week's going to be a little bit tougher. It's tougher to get the speed going against a speed defense, but you can find some opportunities on the outside. And if you can block on the inside significantly the way the 49ers did a little bit against the Bills last week, where they double teamed at the point of attack with some duo blocks, they got some good movement. That could be a method for the 49ers to find some opportunities against Chicago, because you go back and you watch Detroit, and Detroit was able to find opportunities in the run game, taking advantage of the same method. So I think getting the ball going and having a steady run game and running it consistently is going to allow you to set up the play action pass game. Right now, it's becoming a little bit of an issue for the 49ers offense that linebackers are not as engaged in stopping the run as they normally are in some situations. So basically, once a team has figured out they can stop your run with 7, they get deep drops with their linebackers and they're letting Brock Purdy throw the ball underneath and then just rallying to make tackles. They don't believe the 49ers can consistently make those throws. Well, what's different from the beginning of the season? The beginning of the season, they were so motivated to stop the 49ers running game that they were allowing deep vertical passes down the field. Linebackers weren't getting as deep a drop. So now they've changed that method, especially coming out of the bye. Now they're dropping deeper, allowing more of those checkdowns and underneath throws, and the 49ers are going to have to take advantage of it. Brock Purdy's going to have to let it rip this week and get those things going. So that's why I want to see a run game get established. Now, if the linebackers are going to drop off that far, it also means draw plays, screen plays. Those things are available to take advantage of. Horizontal offense, where you drop off and then you throw it underneath. Those things are available. So the 49ers got to adjust to what defenses are doing. I thought Kyle Shanahan did a great job adjusting early on in that Buffalo game, where he knew they were going to be hyper aggressive to stop the running game in the snow. So he went to a lot of the counter plays and was able to get some big runs for Christian McCaffrey, big runs for Jordan Mason, and it worked out well. So I expect a good game plan for Kyle Shanahan in this. He knows what he has to do. Now, I do expect the Bears to mix in some 8-man boxes, but I think they are going to try to stop the 49ers running game with a 7-man box. Last week, the Buffalo Bills had certain situations. It was a 7-man box, but for the most part, especially when they realized the 49ers were going to struggle to throw in the snow and the receivers really couldn't run consistent routes, they loaded up the box with 8, the same way the Packers did going against Brandon Allen. They just weren't fearful of Brandon Allen consistently beating them with the passing game. So I expect a similar process to what Seattle did. Seattle ran a lot of 7-man boxes with 2 high safeties, and I think that's what we're going to see from the Chicago Bears. They're going to see if they can stop Guerrero and this 49ers running game with 7-man box and put the onus on Brock Purdy and them to throw against some situations where there's extra guys and extra DBs. So I think that's what we're going to see early on. And I think once Isaac Guerrero can prove that he can consistently get yardage on the ground and the 49ers can move the sticks and get good carries from Guerrero, then I think the Bears will have to be more aggressive. They'll have to bring in the extra safety into the game, or they'll have to bring a safety into the box, which I think they will. And then the 49ers can have some opportunities in the passing game. And with weather not being an issue this week, expect the 49ers to kind of open this thing up a little bit and try to get aggressive on offense. It just hasn't looked good over the last 2 weeks. Green Bay, mainly because it's Brandon Allen at the helm. There were a lot of opportunities against Green Bay, but you didn't have the right quarterback at the helm. Last week, the weather really dictated how each team was going to play. Even Josh Allen, though he was successful, That's not the normal Josh Allen you see. 13 of 17 is not the normal route that you take. So those are some things to remember as we go into this game. It's going to be a little bit different. So 49ers have to establish that running game. Once it does, it's going to get those linebackers to step up. But if you got to do something early on, it's dink and dunk. It's screen. It's get the ball out horizontally. Deebo Samuel on the screen. Ricky Pearsall on the screen. Run a little bit of those types of things early on in this game to widen out the defense and create horizontal windows for you to be able to throw the ball. So if you can't really get anyone vertical, then you're going to have to take everything underneath and widen out the field this way. So that's what the 49ers are going to have to try to do in this football game is Brock Purdy's got to be willing to take the check down to Isaac Guerendo for 5 yards or the easy throw on the hitch to Deebo Samuel and pick up 6. Those are what he's going to have to do early as those guys start to creep up, as you're able to consistently hit those, maybe break a couple tackles, get some extra yards. Then the defenders creep up. Then all of a sudden you're going to have the deep crossers and some of the things over the middle that you want to take advantage of pretty consistently. So get the run game going, get those linebackers to engage, check the ball underneath, get those linebackers to walk up, get those defensive backs more engaged. Then you can set yourself up for an opportunity down the field. Now, we've seen in the Buffalo game, Jacob Cowan came in for one play, and on that play, he went vertical. Not only was he open, but he created a huge opening for Juwan Jennings. The problem was Brock Purdy couldn't hold on the football, and it was a fumble, or it would have been a nice shot down the field to Juwan Jennings. I'd like to see the 49ers set something up early in this football game for Jacob Cowan. Get a situation where you can get him in the slot and find a man coverage situation, which you can. Chicago will get caught up in man coverage because they have Jalen Johnson and they have some of the speed elements. You get them in that, and you can get Jacob Cowan on a slot fade. I think the 49ers could have an explosive play on offense. So that would be something I would be looking for. Find the right time, understand the down and distance when you're going to get the look that you need. Kyle will do that with the defense, and he'll try to figure it out. But I think there could be a shot for Jacob Cowan in this game if the 49ers play it right. Also, George Kittle, he has proven that he can beat all of the Chicago Bears safeties, and I would be looking for him in this football game. And one of those safeties is going to be out. Elijah Hicks, he's out officially with the ankle. But let me just name off Kevin Byard, right? We've seen George Kittle handle Kevin Byard over the last couple years. You're talking about Jonathan Owens. He was with the Packers. We've seen George Kittle, cause problems for him in the playoffs. And how about Tarvarius Moore, who is a safety for them as well? Jonathan Owens is likely going to start next to Kevin Byard. And I feel really good about the matchup of George Kittle against those two safeties. So the 49ers got to get Kittle involved. I think that there's going to be opportunities for Kittle early. I think at some point they're going to take away Kittle with a double team. I think they'll put a linebacker underneath, put a safety over the top, and try to bracket him, especially when the 49ers get into the red zone, because George Kittle has been the legitimate threat for the 49ers on offense this year, just scoring touchdowns at a higher rate than anyone else. So George Kittle is going to be important to the 49ers. They have to get him involved in the passing game. He can win one-on-ones. And I think at some point they decide to put a corner on George Kittle, whether that's Kyler Gordon, their nickel corner, or at times Jalen Johnson, which we've seen them do last season. So, or a couple years ago. So let's see what happens with the 49ers. But I expect George Kittle to get a lot of attention. Early on, I think he can have some success, but I think at some point they decide to put the onus on Deebo Samuel or Ricky Pearsall or Juwan Jennings to beat them consistently, and we'll see what they can do. Now, Brock Purdy has to distribute the ball around. We got to get the ball going to everyone. Juwan's got to get it. Ricky's got to get it. Deebo's got to get it. George's got to get it. Guerendo's got to catch it out of the backfield. It's got to be one of those games where he's a distributor. He's a point guard. He's John Stockton on the Utah Jazz, just getting the ball out and getting it to his guys so they can go ahead and make plays for his football team. Taking what's there. 4 or 5 yards, yep, boom. Oh, I got a shot for 10, boom. It can't be looking for those deep vertical throws. He also has to make sure he's reading the right side of the progression consistently. So you got to be willing to read and rip the ball this week. That's the key for Brock Purdy, to read and rip on offense. and just go out there and play loose. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just go make plays. More important for Brock Purdy to be in a playmaker mode where he's looking to make plays and not worrying about making turnovers, which I think he might have done over the last couple weeks. So they had no issues with his arm. So I expect a Brock Purdy that can go out there and make some plays. Now on the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be about slowing down the Bears running game and forcing 3rd and long. So the Bears, when they have key situations, they're really good. And we can talk about their talent till we're blue in the face on offense. I mean, they are absolutely loaded. From Caleb Williams to DeAndre Swift, great backfield. They're going to be without Rashawn Johnson, the backup, but they have Travis Homer. But DeAndre Swift is still that guy. They got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze at wide receiver. Pretty darn good group of 3 there. And then the tight end, solid with Cole Kmet. They got Gerald Everett, Mercedes Lewis, a good tight end group. So they've got talent on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to playmakers. But if the 49ers can slow down the Bears running game and force 3rd and longs, that's when you're going to get some good situations for you to confuse Caleb Williams and potentially get him home. As someone who's watched a ton of Caleb Williams because I watch all the USC games, he is a guy that was very frustrating. And I say it's like this. He's either frustrating for the opposing team because he's making crazy, wicked plays, or he's very frustrating for his own team because he's taking big sacks and losing a lot of yards or making key mistakes. So he's just a frustrating player either way you look at it. Exciting, has a lot of potential, could be absolutely dynamic as a quarterback. But right now, the way that he reads defenses, he's not all the way there. So the 49ers have an opportunity to get after Caleb Williams, but they're going to have to slow down the Bears' running game. Now, the Bears haven't had a dynamic running game this season. They average a little over 100 yards, 109 yards per game. So it's not been great. You can stop the run game. Some of the inconsistencies with the offensive line definitely plays into that. We talked about Bates being out. He's the starting center. Now, a former 49er, Matt Pryor, he's the starting right guard. He couldn't even get on the field last year for the 49ers, and now he's a starting right guard for the Chicago Bears. We're going to talk about him a little bit more in a minute. So slowing down DeAndre Swift is something you have to do and can do. Now, here's the problem. Over the last 2 weeks, the 49ers run defense has been abysmal. They have not been able to consistently stop a running back or a run game. So they're going to have to go out there and prove that they can do it. And I think just knowing Nick Sorensen, the way that he calls defense and the way that Brandon Staley wants to approach this as his kind of help, they are going to try to stop the running game early with just a 7-man box. So what they were doing last week, just so everyone kind of has an understanding, and it worked early against the Bills, and later on it filtered out, is on first down, they were going 8-man box and putting the onus on the Buffalo Bills to throw on first down if they needed to. Buffalo was still trying to run. 49ers got stops early on. Then on 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 8, they would go to a 2-man safety look and say, okay, you want to run the football? We'll give up 3 or 4. We'll force third down. We think we can get off the field on third down. A solid methodology. It normally works. It does not work against Josh Allen consistently. So I think the 49ers are going to come up. They're going to try to run a 7-man box early. See if they can stop DeAndre Swift and the Chicago Bears. You've got to be quick to pull the trigger if they start moving the ball. But if you can stop it with 7, it allows you to change up your coverages and allows you to really make it more difficult on Caleb Williams and his weapons to consistently convert down the field. So it's going to be imperative for the 49ers to stop the run with 7. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the interior defensive line of the 49ers. Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott must win. They also cannot get washed and moved off their spots. They have to hold their ground and keep Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, and D. Winters clean. Now, there's probably going to be a lot of nickel corner situations, which means D. Winters, you're probably not out there as much, and you've got to make sure Devondre Campbell stays clean so he can help stop guys. Now, when you do that and you're able to stop the run, you can force 3rd and longs. That's when you can get off the field against the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears don't turn over the football a lot, like at all. Only 9 turnovers, and we'll talk about that even more later. 9 turnovers on offense. Phenomenal. They take care of the ball. That's not why they lose. Why they lose is ineffectiveness on third down. They only convert third downs at 33% of the time. That's not good. 49ers defense on third down hasn't been great, but it hasn't been that horrible that all of a sudden it's going to allow Chicago to get all kinds of first downs. So third and long, imperative for the 49ers, especially in this game. You've got to be aggressive, and you've got to be aggressive with personnel groupings and confusing Caleb Williams. So I've been on this for a few weeks now that I don't think Nick Sorensen's leaning into the talent he has when it comes to personnel groupings. I think we've seen teams take advantage of him. They put extra offensive tackle in the game or an extra tight end, and the 49ers don't always react in kind. They don't bring in an extra defensive lineman or an extra linebacker to make up for that situation. I've also argued that in third and long situations, that means 3rd and 8+, they don't go to a 3 safety look or an extra corner or a dime set. They just stay in nickel and leave Devondre Campbell out there in space where he's a little bit slower and doesn't have the speed to make the plays. Last week, they did listen to that advice. I don't think they listened to the podcast, but they did make an adjustment, and Tashaun Gibson came in on third and long situations, especially obvious pass downs, as a third safety, and he went and he played the starting tight end for the Buffalo Bills. That was a good move. The problem was when they went extra offensive tackle, which they normally do 35% of the time, he still left the nickel corner out on the field. I don't understand that. So the personnel groupings have to be on par, and he has to be aggressive with them. Make the Chicago Bears offense beat you. So that's going to be important in this game, getting those things together. Now, simulating pressure and disguising coverage is going to be huge. We've seen him simulate pressure, bring Fred Warner up in the A-gap, possibly show that he's going to bring a safety off the edge. Those guys drop off, and then you have a little bit of confusion up front. But those types of things have to happen to engage Caleb Williams' thought process, so that way he will get his eyes on the pass rush and who's coming and who's not, and not what's going on downfield. Even for a half second, a half a tick, that's 1/2 a second, half a tick that he's behind making the reads that he needs to make. And then what you get on the back end is disguising coverage. Show zone, run man, show man, run zone. Just disguise it a little bit. Sometimes don't make it as easy as, oh yeah, we're in cover 3, I'm playing off coverage, and look, I'm running bail technique before you ever even snap it. That's okay sometimes, but you can't do that all the time. You've got to make sure sometimes you're up there, you're pressing. Maybe you're going to play cover 3, but you come up and you play an inside leverage early to make them think you're not, that you're running a cover 2, you're running something else. Just keep changing the game a little bit. So the 49ers got to figure out how to disguise coverage from alignments to assignments and keep him off his game. And I think if they do that, it's going to be good. Now, one thing that they can do is the concepts for the Bears are not entirely difficult to understand. You can look at them and you can find situations where they like to go to certain looks and run certain routes. So what you have to do is know those situations and narrow it down and try to take him off his first read. We need Caleb Williams to not be able to find reads 1 and 2 open. If you take away reads 1 and 2, he doesn't automatically go through the progression of 1, 2, 3, 4. He goes 1, 2, oh crap, I need to scramble, make something happen, and then he can make mistakes. That's the frustrating part of Caleb Williams. He'll make 1 or 2 that will blow you away. He's dynamic that way. But he'll also make key mistakes. It might not be that he turns over the football, but it might be a sack, or he might go ahead and run out of bounds short of the line of scrimmage and lose yardage. Those types of things happen with a young player, and especially Caleb Williams. So that's going to be a key element. Takeaways, reads 1 and 2, simulate pressure, disguise coverage, and make him go through his progressions, make him get to 3 and 4. If he does, and he does a great job, well, that's an NFL player making a play. If he doesn't, you're going to have an opportunity to get sacks in this football game, which is really huge. Now, I talked about the dime and the 3 safety sets on third and long. They need to do that because the Bears will face some third and longs in this football game. And the 49ers need to have someone more athletic than Devondre Campbell on the field. And I don't hate on Devondre Campbell probably the way that most do. But one thing I do recognize is what his deficiencies are. And one of those deficiencies is speed. And if you're going to have a dynamic athletic quarterback like Caleb Williams running around, and you're going to take away and disguise coverages to make him want to run around, you're going to have to make sure you have guys that can run him down. And that's not easy anyways, but you have Fred. He's a good tracker. He can handle that. You have Leonard Floyd, an athletic defensive end. He can handle tracking him down. He's not going to run him down, but he can track with him. You need another guy on the field. Now, there's a linebacker option. That's D. Winters. That's always a possibility. Now, what I would prefer, because I don't think Caleb Williams is the most physical, imposing. He's not Josh Allen that can run you over, where you need Devondre Campbell to take him on physically or a linebacker to take him on physically. He's a guy you can bring down with a safety. Is let's put Deshaun Gibson on the field. Allow Deshaun Gibson to take away Cole Kmet and then put Malik Mustafa, Jair Brown, and the 49ers 3 cornerbacks working against Keenan Allen, against Rome Odunze, and against DJ Moore. That would definitely help the 49ers defense significantly. So those are situations. Force 3rd and long, and then get Deshaun Gibson on the field to be able to track and run down Caleb Williams. He's a good tackler. He can tackle in space. I think that's what the 49ers need to do, and I would love to see them do that in those situations. Get Campbell off the field. It's just not a good matchup. Early on, 1st and 2nd down, stopping the run, absolutely have him out on the field. But on 3rd and long, especially, do not have him there, especially when Caleb Williams can take off and run. I don't like that matchup. So with the Bears being without center Ryan Bates, I think the 49ers got to take advantage of the interior offensive line of the Chicago Bears. No Bates means they're going to have a backup in, and it's going to be Cole Shelton. So Coleman Shelton is going to start at center for the Chicago Bears. And, you know, whenever you're getting adjustments at center, it's always difficult. And we've seen guys, you know, be able to figure it out. I mean, he's been in the league for a while. This is his 6th season. So Coleman Shelton's not exactly a young guy that doesn't understand what to do, but they've got to make the Bears pay on the inside. Matt Pryor, they've had experience against him. They know what his deficiencies are at offensive line. Coach Chris Verser can definitely give a detailed plan of what his weaknesses are so they can try to take advantage of them. So Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, Evan Anderson, Khalil Davis, they need to take advantage of this guy on early downs. But really, when the 49ers need to take advantage of Matt Pryor and take advantage of a backup center is when you get in that 3rd and long situation. Put Deshaun Gibson in for speed-wise. Also, put Yetur Gross-Matos or Sam Okuwanu over Matt Pryor. They are more athletic. They are a lot quicker than he is. Uses lateral quickness deficiencies against him. He's very slow-footed. That's part of the reason he's moved to the interior and not an offensive tackle anymore, is because he's not as good picking up those types of rushes. You're not going to beat him with the bull rush, so that's not what Gross-Matos or Okuwanu should do. But you can absolutely beat him with speed and agility, and a spin move I think would be really nice this week. So that's a matchup I like for the 49ers, is those two guys inside against Matt Pryor and the backup center for the Chicago Bears, Coleman Shelton. So those are the matchups the 49ers can take advantage of on defense, and I think they should in this football game. Now, let's talk about 3rd down. We talked about it a little bit earlier. It's a must-win for the 49ers. The 49ers offense converts at 43%. The Chicago Bears, 33%. That's the huge disadvantage for Chicago. Turnover on downs is a key for the 49ers this week. Force Chicago to punt the football a lot. That's how you're going to win. It's all about forcing 3rd and long and then making plays. Now, the 49ers defense does give up 3rd down conversions at 44%. If for some reason they could keep this under 40, they have a real good shot of getting extra possessions and extra opportunities. Now, the Bears defense is good on 3rd down. They only give up conversion rates at 34%. So 49ers key this week is to make sure it's 3rd and manageable. Now, red zone offense and red zone defense is slanted heavily Chicago Bears way. So the 49ers offense converts at 48%. It had been up to 50% going into the Green Bay game. It's kind of stepped down again. But how about this? The Chicago Bears, when they get in the red zone, they score touchdowns at 66%. That's better than the Buffalo Bills, who just went ham 4 for 4 against the 49ers. So here's a key for the 49ers. Don't allow them in the red zone. When they get to about the 35, 30-yard line, you better go guns blazing and get after them, and don't allow them in the red zone so they don't have an opportunity, because red zone defense is a weakness for the 49ers. 49ers give up touchdowns at 70%. second worst in the NFL. Only Dallas Cowboys are worse than the 49ers in the red zone. That's not winning football. It has to get a lot better over the next 5 weeks. And one of the ways it can get a lot better, don't allow them in the red zone. You bend and don't break, but don't bend all the way to the red zone. Make sure you force long field goals in this game. That's going to be huge. And then the Chicago Bears, the number one red zone defense in the entire league. So you're going to have to do your best to score in the red zone. They only allow touchdowns at 40%. So huge advantage for Chicago Bears there. That is where they have their biggest advantage. And it gets a little bit like that again with turnovers. Giveaways. 49ers have 19 giveaways this season. Not good. You're turning the football over way too much. 3 last week. Just bad. 49ers are trending in the wrong direction there. Bears, I talked about it earlier. They've only given the ball away 9 times. You look at takeaways. 49ers have forced 16 turnovers, but only 1 since the bye. That's got to change. You've got to create more turnovers, give your offense more opportunities and short field so they can create scoring chances. For the Bears, they have 19 takeaways. So they've been doing a really good job getting the football in their hands and not turning it over. And so the turnover differential, a huge advantage for the Bears. 49ers -3, Bears +10. The 49ers cannot lose in the red zone and lose the turnover differential and win this football game. So they're going to have to make sure they get off the field on 3rd down and don't allow Chicago into the red zone. That's going to be a key. And then take care of the football a little bit this week. It's going to be very important for the 49ers to make sure they do that. Now we're going to get into our Wow That's Bold predictions brought to you by 49erscutbackshop.com. You need a shirt, a cutback shirt or mug or something like that for the holidays. Check it out. Link is in the description. If you want maybe a Brock Purdy t-shirt, that's available over there as well. Go check it out. Let me know what you guys think of the 49ers Cutback Shop. And now let's get into the Wow That's Bold predictions.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
It's got to be really bold. It's got to be whoa. So while that's bold predictions, a little bit on hiatus last week. But this one, I'm on offense. It's not going to be too complicated. I think Ricky Pearsall is going to get involved in this game. We've seen targets for him open. He was open against Green Bay, and Brandon Allen just didn't throw him the football. But that's a different situation. In the snow, he got targeted one time and he fell down, but there wasn't a lot of opportunities there for the 49ers. So I think it's a whole new week and a whole new opportunity. I think Ricky Pearsall is going to have at least 3 catches in this football game and get active against the Chicago Bears. I think I could see some matchups where I like him against Tyreek Stevenson. I like him against Kyler Gordon. So there could be some opportunities for Ricky Pearsall in this game. And if George Kittle starts getting those double teams that I think he's going to get, it could create some more opportunities. If all of a sudden, not just double teams, but then they decide, you know what, we're going to put Jalen Johnson on George Kittle, which they've done in the past. Well, that's great. Now all of a sudden you've got cornerback 2 and 3 against Debo and Ricky Pearsall, and they need to win. And Jawan Jennings, who he can win. He's more physical. Jawan Jennings against Tyreek Stevenson, advantage Jennings because of his physicality. I like that matchup a lot for the 49ers. And then I'm going out on a limb with this one. Wow, that's bold prediction. The second one, Debo gets a touchdown. He hasn't had a touchdown in a long time. He's only had 1 touchdown this year, but I think he gets one in this game. I think he's an important part of the 49ers offense, and they're going to rely on him in this football game to make some plays. Now, over on the defensive side of the ball, I've got the 49ers getting 3 sacks. I think that they're going to get after Caleb Williams. I think he's going to hold on to the football, make some mistakes. I do think we're going to get some simulated pressures, and the 49ers are going to get after him. Leonard Floyd has been picking it up. Last week against the Bills was an anomaly. No one had good footwork. But the 2 games before that, Leonard Floyd was coming on. I talked about Yetur Gross-Matos and Sam Okawanu's matchups on the inside against the backup center, against Matt Pryor, the right guard. I like those advantages for the 49ers. I think there's going to be an opportunity for sacks. In fact, my other Wow That's Bold prediction is that Malik Collins is going to get one of those sacks. So I think the 49ers are going to do perfect on the inside and get some opportunities to get after the quarterback. Don't even be surprised if Kalia Davis has a sack in this game because I think his penetration and the way he plays against Matt Pryor, some of the times they went against each other in practice, could give him an opportunity to get after the quarterback. So those are my Wow That's Bold predictions. And then my score prediction for the game, I think it's going to be close. I think the way that the Chicago Bears execute in the red zone, the way they take care of the football, I think the 49ers are going to have to really play tough football to win this game. But I think they're going to show enough heart. I think they're going to show enough intestinal fortitude that I think they're going to do it. But I don't think it's going to be a big blowout win for the 49ers. I think the 49ers are going to win this game 26-23. And they do just enough to beat Chicago. And then they turn their attention to the Los Angeles Rams. And everyone will be watching to see what happens with Arizona and Seattle. A Arizona win, and the 49ers are right in the thick of things as long as they can continue to win. But that's a tough task, and the Bears are not going to be an easy football team to beat. I think this is going to be a fun one. Looking forward to 49ers versus Bears on Sunday. And, of course, we'll be talking about it next week. It'll be a quick turnaround before the Rams. But you can find all the content right here on 49ers Cutback. Of course, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. It's available on Believe Network. So 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Give it a 5-star rating. That helps a lot as well. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.